A little girl had waited months to meet her baby brother, but the moment she saw him after his birth, she stepped back and said, "He's not my brother." Her parents thought it was just nerves until a DNA test exposed a truth no one was prepared for. Stay with us, because what follows will make you question how much we can truly trust what we see. And tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Olivia and Daniel Whitaker had built a life that seemed almost charmed. High school sweethearts turned Boston homeowners. They had poured their energy into raising their daughter, Emily. From the moment she could walk, Emily was curious and alert, always watching, always asking questions that felt older than her years. Teachers called her bright. Neighbors called her polite. Her parents simply knew she had a way of noticing things others missed. Emily thrived in their quiet Cambridge neighborhood. She loved books, puzzles, and shadowing her father during weekend projects. And though she had friends, she was happiest in the warm orbit of her parents and grandmother, Margaret. So when Olivia told her she would soon have a baby brother, Emily lit up. She pressed her small hands to her mother's belly and whispered, "Baby brother, I'm going to take care of you." The pregnancy went smoothly until delivery day. Olivia expected a repeat of the natural birth she'd had with Emily, but hours passed with no progress. Exhaustion set in. The baby's heart rate dipped. The doctor made the call, emergency C-section. Daniel stayed at her side until the scalpel gleamed under the lights. His old fear of blood overtook him, and he fainted. Sedated and unaware, Olivia never saw her son delivered. By the time she woke in recovery, a nurse was placing a swaddled baby in her arms. Pale skin, wispy blonde hair, and piercing blue eyes. 3 days later, the Whitakers arrived home from Harborview Medical Center. Margaret waited on the porch with Emily, who bounced on her toes. Olivia stepped forward, lowered the blanket so her daughter could see. Emily's smile faltered. She stared at the baby, then looked straight at her parents and said with quiet certainty, "He's not my brother." The porch went silent. Daniel forced a smile, certain it was just a case of first-day jealousy. "Of course he's your brother, Em. This is Noah," he said, leaning closer so she could get a better look. But Emily didn't budge. She shook her head, her eyes fixed on the bundle in Olivia's arms. "Baby brother in Mommy's tummy wasn't like this," she said softly. Then she turned and walked inside. Margaret tried to smooth things over, telling Olivia and Daniel not to take it to heart. "She's adjusting. Give her time," she said. But as the days passed, Emily's reaction didn't fade. It deepened. She avoided Noah's crib, sat at the far end of the couch when Olivia fed him, and rarely spoke his name. When Olivia invited her to help with baths or sing him to sleep, Emily obeyed politely but without affection, her little hands moving as if on autopilot. At first, Daniel told himself it was just sibling rivalry. But then came the comments, small, unnerving observations that stuck in his mind. His hair is too light. His eyes don't look like ours. He smells different. They weren't tantrums or outbursts. They were quiet, matter-of-fact statements from a child who didn't sound confused, just certain. By the end of the month, it was clear this wasn't going away. Olivia found Emily sitting on her bed one night, clutching the knit cap Noah had worn home from the hospital. "It doesn't smell like us," she murmured, almost to herself. When Olivia asked what she meant, Emily just shrugged and lay down, as if the conversation was already over. Worried, Daniel suggested they speak to a professional. A week later, they sat in the office of Dr. Adrian Cole, a child psychologist known for his calm, straightforward approach. Emily was polite, answered his questions, and even smiled a little. But when he gently asked about Noah, her answer was the same as it had been on the porch. "He's not my brother." After several sessions, Dr. Cole called Olivia and Daniel in alone. "This isn't acting out," he said. "Emily isn't rejecting him out of jealousy. She genuinely believes he's not related to her. I can't tell you why, but I can tell you this. She's unusually observant for her age. If you want to put this to rest, I recommend a DNA test. Show her proof, and she might finally accept him." Olivia hesitated. The idea felt drastic, even disloyal, but Daniel argued it was a harmless way to ease their daughter's mind. In the end, they agreed. 1 cheek swab for Noah, 1 each for them, and the samples were sent off. They expected the results to end the matter. Instead, they would open a door they could never close. The results were due on a Friday morning. Daniel set his laptop on the kitchen table, coffee cooling beside him as he waited for the lab's email to load. When it appeared, his eyes scanned the document once, then again. His hand went still on the mouse. Olivia came in holding Noah, his tiny fists curled around the edge of her sweater. "Well, what does it say?" she asked, trying to sound casual. Daniel didn't answer right away. His lips parted, but the words didn't come. Finally, he looked up, his face pale. "It says, Noah isn't related to us. At all." For a second, Olivia thought she'd misheard. She set Noah gently in his bassinet, took the laptop, and read the lines herself. Her breath caught. Probability of maternity, 0%. Probability of paternity, 0%. She read it again, slower this time, her mind refusing to process the meaning. "That's not possible. I carried him. I gave birth to him," she whispered. Daniel ran both hands through his hair. "Olivia, you were unconscious during the surgery. I was out cold. Neither of us actually saw him being born." The memory hit her hard. The blue curtain, the cold air of the operating room, the sound of voices she didn't recognize before waking up with a baby in her arms. They called the lab, clinging to the hope that there had been some kind of mix-up in processing. But the doctor on the other end confirmed the results. No errors, no chance. Noah was not their child. For a long moment, neither spoke. The kitchen felt smaller, the air heavier. Olivia's eyes went to the bassinet. Noah lay there quietly, his blue eyes open and curious, completely unaware of the storm his presence had unleashed. "If he's not ours," she said slowly, "then where is our real son?" Daniel's voice was tight. If this happened, it had to be at the hospital, Harborview. That afternoon, they walked into Harborview Medical Center with the DNA report in hand. The head administrator read the document, her expression tightening with every line. She asked them to wait in a small conference room while she called in senior staff. The Whitakers sat side by side, saying little, the faint beeping of machines from the hallway the only sound. Within an hour, an investigation was underway. Hospital policy required DNA cross-checks in suspected cases of newborn misidentification, so staff began reviewing every delivery from the day Noah was born. They examined ID bracelet logs, camera footage from the maternity ward, and nursing shift records. For Olivia and Daniel, the days that followed were torture. They went through the motions of feeding and changing Noah, but the certainty planted by the test gnawed at them. Olivia's bond, once so instinctive, now felt strained, shadowed by doubt. Even Margaret seemed quieter, avoiding any comment about the baby's features. And Emily didn't gloat or say "I told you so." She simply carried on as before, treating Noah as if he were a polite guest in their home rather than family. On the 10th day, the hospital called. They had found another family. The next morning, Olivia and Daniel sat in the same conference room at Harborview, hands clasped so tightly their knuckles whitened. A senior nurse entered first, followed by a couple who looked far too young to carry the weight in their eyes. "Mr. and Mrs. Whitaker, this is Marcus and Leah," the administrator said gently. "They may have your son." Leah clutched a blanket to her chest. Inside was a small boy with soft brown hair and a faint bluish tint around his lips. Olivia's breath caught. There was no mistaking the olive skin, the shape of the nose, features she'd seen in the mirror her whole life. The administrator explained what the investigation had found. 2 C-sections performed within minutes of each other, a mix-up during the transfer from the surgical suite to recovery, and ID bracelets accidentally switched. Marcus and Leah's son, Olivia and Daniel's biological child, had been born with a congenital heart defect. It was treatable, but they had struggled to afford the surgery. When the truth sank in, the room went still. Olivia looked down at Noah, Marcus and Leah's son, nestled in her arms. She thought of his first laugh, the way he gripped her finger at night. Across from her, Leah held the boy Olivia had dreamed about through pregnancy, but never met until this moment. Marcus's voice was quiet but steady. "We love him, but he's yours. And your son. He needs what we can't give him right now." The air felt heavy, pressing in on all 4 parents. Olivia's heart twisted. To hand Noah back would feel like losing him forever. To keep him would mean raising another couple's child, knowing her own son was somewhere else. Finally, Daniel spoke. "This isn't about who loves them more. It's about what's right." No one moved right away. When they did, it was slow, almost reluctant. Olivia stepped forward with Noah. Leah rose with the other boy. The exchange was wordless, just a careful, trembling handoff, each mother lingering for one last look. Olivia felt the weight of her son in her arms for the first time. He was lighter than Noah, his breathing faintly uneven. She tucked the blanket around him, and he shifted, letting out a soft sigh. Daniel touched her shoulder, but she couldn't look away from the small face beneath the folds of fabric. On the drive home, the car was quiet except for the hum of the engine. Olivia studied her son, really studied him, for the first time. His hair was dark, his eyes a hazel gray, searching her face as if trying to memorize it. She wondered how long it would take for that gaze to feel like home. At the house, Margaret and Emily were waiting in the living room. Emily didn't rush forward. She stepped closer slowly, peering down at the baby. He reached up with a tiny hand, curling his fingers in the air between them. A smile bloomed across her face. "This is my brother," Emily said softly. "Can I hold him?" In the days after the exchange, Harborview Medical Center moved quickly. The hospital's board issued a formal written apology to both families, delivered in person by the administrator who had overseen the investigation. They agreed to cover all medical expenses for both children, past, present, and future, including the heart surgery Olivia's son would need. The maternity ward staff were retrained, ID protocols rewritten, and new barcoded security tags installed for every newborn. A state health inspector's review concluded with a steep fine for negligence, but at the family's request, the matter stayed private to protect the children. For Olivia and Daniel, life felt both familiar and brand new. Their home still held the same warmth, but every routine now included relearning how to be parents to a child they were only just meeting. Emily made the transition easiest of all. From the moment she called him my brother, she was his shadow, reading to him, showing him her favorite picture books, and gently holding his hands when he tried to sit up. The day of the surgery arrived sooner than they expected. Olivia paced the waiting room while Daniel tried to focus on anything but the clock. Emily sat with Margaret, clutching the same knit cap she had held when Noah first came home months before. After hours that felt endless, the surgeon emerged with a smile. The procedure had gone well. Their son would grow up healthy. Recovery was slow, but each milestone brought the family closer. First smiles, first laughs, and the first time he reached for Olivia on his own. Each one felt like a small piece of trust settling into place. Daniel noticed it too, watching the bond between mother and son deepen until it felt unshakable. Seasons passed, and the Whitaker home found its rhythm again. Emily and her brother, now a chubby, bright-eyed toddler, were inseparable. She built towers so he could knock them over, held his hands as he wobbled across the living room, and ran to him first whenever he cried. The once quiet house was full of giggles, clattering toys, and the kind of chaos that only comes from children who feel safe. Olivia sometimes thought about Noah, the boy she had raised for months before the truth came out. She hoped he was thriving with Marcus and Leah, just as her own son was here. A few times, holiday cards passed quietly between the families, sharing updates without reopening wounds. Both children were healthy, loved, and where they were meant to be. Every so often, Olivia would remember that first afternoon on the porch, the way Emily had looked at the newborn in her arms and simply known. It was the kind of certainty that defied logic, the kind that left adults scrambling for explanations that never came. Emily herself didn't talk about it much. If anyone asked, she would shrug and say she just knew, as though it were the most ordinary thing in the world. One crisp autumn evening, as Olivia folded laundry, she overheard Margaret in the living room, watching the children play. "It's a sister's instinct," her mother said softly. "Some things you can't teach, you just feel them." Olivia glanced over at Emily, who was laughing as her brother tried to crawl onto her lap. There was no need for DNA tests or medical charts now. The truth was written in the way they looked at each other, in the easy comfort between them, in the unspoken promise that had been there since the day they met. And though the mystery of how Emily had known would never be solved, Olivia understood one thing with absolute certainty. Her daughter's instinct had saved two families from a lifetime of living the wrong story. Do you think love and family are written in our hearts before we even meet, or was Emily's moment just a child's lucky hunch? Let us know what you believe in the comments. If you've ever experienced a moment where your instincts proved right, tell us below. Your story might just inspire our next video. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next story.